All right, my name is Rich Schmidt. We're here with Gilles de Domingo. It's March 28th, 2023. We're at Cooper Mountain Vineyards. Gilles, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, thank you.
First question to start things off is why wine?
Why wine? Well, I think it must be a DNA somewhere because I was born with wine. My family has a castle in France, for me, in the Bordeaux area with vineyards. My grandfather came from Spain, Basque Spanish, immigrated to France, and at the time, the first thing that the immigrants will do is acquire a piece of land. And he acquired quite a bunch of piece of land, and he purchased also a 15th century castle that he took roughly all his life to restore. And it means me as a young man with vineyards, all weekends we spend time in the vineyards and the cellar, the winery, and the castle. I grew up with these notions of winemaking, viticulture, farming. We had a lot of cows also. And I had an influence of, I'm talking sharing things. It was after World War II. Me, I was not World War II, I'm not 75. I was born in 1969. But my grandfather had seen the war, World War II, the horror of the war. He was resistant. My uncle was a resistant. And it means the farm was also a way to shelter people during the war. And after the war, the memory is kept. And the wine was also a symbolism of farming and also sheltering and sharing. Viticulture, the farming overall. And I understood young, very young, that in life nothing is acquired. But the vines stay. You could have a war. You could have a misery, you could have a COVID, you could have things, but the farming stays. And human being needs food, or they need goods, and the goods are produced by the land. And the wine is something absolutely beautiful for me always. This is a byproduct of an agricultural system where you keep the memory. It means you bottle a wine, you make your wine, you bottle it. In 20 years from now, you can test still the memory of the vintage. The vintage is about the season, is about, of course, the location, and also the people. And the people doesn't mean the winemaker, but it means everybody involved on the job. Everyone. And there is this kind of romantic notion. And also the notion of art and science. Viticulture is a science, winemaking, enology is a science, and also a form of art, because it involves a human being. And I'm a little bit on the romantic side, or too much of a thinker maybe, but there is this notion of connections to people and to the land. And the wine is just the reflection of our job.
It's a good answer.
I know, but I always good answer. Or after means I was like that. When I was a teenager, I was a spoiled brat because my family had money, bourgeois. But I had my search as a teenager. I wanted to be everything in the world, like possible, like all teenagers. And it took me a while to find my pathway. And with the university, I went to university in winemaking, enology, in Bordeaux, in France. If you notice, I'm French from my accent. And later on, I decided to discover a little bit what was around, the things. Means leave Bordeaux. With the plan to come back and to take over the family winery, working with my uncle, which I dearly loved, and I went to New Zealand. And in New Zealand, it was a big shock because it was in 1995, if I recall. And I went to do an harvest in New Zealand. At the time, it was not a lot of French there. It was not even a lot of wineries in the Bordeaux area. And freshly graduated from university, where university tell you are the best of the best because you have a super diploma, a master in enology. Well, in New Zealand, I arrived and they tell me, okay, you see the truck here? Yeah, we do wash the truck. Okay, thanks. And suddenly my ego went down. And in fact, I loved it. I really loved it. I loved it so much that in New Zealand I did an harvest. For me it was a struggle because I thought I knew everything, in fact I knew nothing. I discovered that. Means I learned humility on the job. And I used to work in Marlborough with Gary Dukes, a winemaker, who was yelling at me permanently because I couldn't hear a crop he was saying. My English was so bad. Number one, I couldn't hear even. But he was yelling at me, but because in fact he was stressing, not because of me, because of vintage. And I learned this experience was an open eye for me that in fact there is no truth. Means each winery will have their own difficult vintage, good vintage, difficult vintage. But a winemaker does his poor job, like he does the best he can. During the bad vintage, okay, that's stressful. And we all take personally. It's like, you know, an ocean, that's stressful, but also that's stressful. Instead of to say, okay, that's not my fault, that's a crappy vintage, that's raining a lot during harvest. My berries are big like that because they swallow so much water, but we take personally. And that was fabulous in a certain way. That's fabulous because we want to do the best. And there is a communality in winemaking overall that we all take personally. And it means there is a form of art in a certain way. And that's very enriching on the human behavior, personally. That's what I find. After New Zealand, I decided to my family in Bordeaux was waiting for me. I say, okay, now you learn English enough? Yeah, sure, yeah. So much that I decided to continue traveling. And what happened in New Zealand, in fact, I decided to go back to France, temporarily. And I took a flight from Auckland to Paris via Los Angeles. And when I arrived in Los Angeles, it was 14 hours flying. I had a very good idea to fall asleep at the airport, to take my connection. And I wake up. Now, because I couldn't hear well also, means the announcement, everything, I missed my flight. Well, I went to the counter, United Airlines, and they said me, okay, the next flight for you is in 2 days. Well, what I'm going to do, me? Hopefully, I had a connection in New Zealand. I met somebody who was a chef in Los Angeles. And I called him. I had his phone number. And I said, okay, you don't remember me, maybe, I don't know. Help! I was a young guy, me, you know. I was a young guy, okay, technology was not very great at the time. And he said me, okay, all right, here is the address, try to find a cab. And don't worry, we will take care of you. And when I arrived there, in fact, he had a dinner, and at the dinner I met a guy who was in wine business in Oregon. And he talked to me about that, and he said, but yeah, you should already consider maybe going for an harvest in Oregon. Have a look. I went back to France, I put him in contact with him. And the vintage after, I was in fact at King Estate Winery. At King Estate Winery, or it was in 1995 or so. At King Estate, I arrived like a very Frenchman also, you know, free guy. And he was new at King Estate. And the team was amazing. The guy was Brad Bill, who unfortunately died years ago. Brad Bill became my mentor, my best friend. He used to work in France, means he understood my character, my temper, my passion, especially, because he was highly passionate. Brad Bill was, for me, a top mentor for me. I work with Ray Walsh, Capitello Winery now, a great friend of mine. Will Bucklin, California, now he's in California. He owned a winery, a great man also. And at the time in 1995, okay, because it was a fairly new winery, very new even, we have to plant vineyards, we have to expand, we have to learn. We have to learn not to make wine, but understanding the process, the why of the Chardonnay, the Pinot Noir, understanding Oregon, which is complicated things. Understanding, the Pinot Noir from Oregon. The team was new. Will Bucklin was from California. Brad knew Oregon well. Ray Walsh was from New Zealand. Me, I was the dude, French, same thing, okay, all right. And it means there is a team set up where, in fact, with many other people, of course, we have to have our eyes open and learn, and we did learn very well. Brad, Will, Ray were already on the top of their game, and me, I learned from them. And I had a really good time making estates. And they put up with me immensely because I am ultra passionate. You have some stuff like they asked me to do. I say, no, I'm not going to do. It's criminal. I say, Gilles, please. Already nervous. And winter in Oregon was my first winter in Oregon. And that traumatic event. Rain. I couldn't take anymore. And I said to them, okay, let me come back next year. Next harvest, okay? Let me go somewhere else. Decided to come back to France, but in fact, I stayed in France, and after even borderline a month, I was already on the move to say, okay, let me go to another country, let me discover things here. I want to learn. And suddenly I went on a busier mode to do South Africa, Australia. By meeting people. Every time it has been by meeting people. And meeting people not like networking, by being, to show my passion and to talk to people who are passionate about it. Who I think appreciated my passion, but who appreciated my dedication also. And my spirit of, how we say, human connection, everything. But not in a way of networking. I didn't need to network. I just wanted to say, hey, let me try that, okay? Come on. If you don't have to pay me even, at this level, they will pay me, hopefully. I went to South Africa, went to Australia, plenty of things happened there, crazy stuff. In South Africa, I ended up managing a strike in a cellar. The Zulu and the Tutsi were striking in the middle of the harvest. I was working with for an English group. Me, I was a guy in the middle of the things. Or because I was French, means I have no stakes at all over because everything is political there. I end up negotiating the strikes by some funny ones, by corrupting the unions, because they love rugby. They love rugby. Or it means because I come from an area in France, and with my connections in France, family connections, France had a rugby player named Serge Blanco. Serge Blanco was a national team, but he was black. Or because of Africa, okay, of course. Rugby and black, okay, you're cool. And I promise I will give them a jersey from Serge Blanco, signed by Serge Blanco. And after, if you get it, guys, will come back to work. I got it. And it was an adventure, complete adventure, a human adventure, and it was fantastic. A beautiful country, beautiful people. In Australia, it was a different story. Same thing, different characteristic of people. The winemaking, the passion was still the same. It was very large wineries. South Africa was a smaller winery. Means I had the perspective of a lot of things, large size, big size, small size. Quality was different because the goal was different, and that's fine, and everything is fine for that. Et voilà, on came back to King Estate, continue the adventure. My family and friends were still waiting for me. They say, okay, take your time. Tell me what you're planning. And I decided, in fact, to stay in Oregon. Quite simple, I stayed in Oregon. Then after, in fact, at King Estate, it was a top winery, a pleasure to work with. But I remember talking to, at the time, the head winemaker, and I said, okay, I know you want me back, we talk about it, stuff like that, but there is a visa problem, these kind of things. Because, you are great, and all the team, we talk like that, and I said, okay, you're going to find me a job somewhere else. I'm not going to look for a job, you're going to find me a job. He said, okay. But you want to get rid of me, I don't know. No, in fact, we didn't have enough staff, And if he find me a job, in fact, they put me in contact with a winery in Southern Oregon, named Bridgeview Vineyard. And at Bridgeview Vineyard, I was there in 1999 until 2004. Southern Oregon, beautiful area. Bridgeview Vineyard is next to Forest. Was in the Illinois Valley. And that's a beautiful place. A great terroir for wine. Underestimated terroir, still. That's very unfair, because we have top lands. And especially a microclimate, very interesting to follow. And for Pinot Noir also. And Bridgeview Vineyard, it was a different style winery, of course. Large volume at the time. I worked with Bob Caravan, who was the president of the company, and Lelo, his wife, who was managing the winery. Bob Caravan was a man of business. Unfortunately, he passed away also. But a man who was like a street raised, but who knew how to do business, and he knew farming, and he knew pretty much everything. And I really had great pleasure working with them. I worked with René Ekman, a great guy, totally different character of Bob Caravan. Bob Caravan was the president of the company, means that's my way, but a good man, a very good man, but very business oriented. René was more mellow as a character, means he was a buffer between me and Bob Caravan. If not, we are going to clash, because my passion was definitively, but Bob Caravan understood my passion. And he used it in a way, but in a way also to for positivity, for the winery overall. And I worked there, I had a very great time, everything. But during this period, one thing I didn't do is vineyard. And the problem is me, I love the vineyard. But really big time. It means I moved to Cooper Mountain, because at Cooper Mountain I'm a winemaker, but also I love going to the vineyards. And I love knowing everybody. The plants especially. And means I talk a lot, but my point is, from the beginning to the start, that has been, when you ask me why wine, is in fact, that's not my blood. I don't think I can do something else than wine. I will die making wine. And I will, I don't know, I love vineyard, I love nature, always been like that. You will tell me why you're Frenchman, because you are going to tell me, because I talk a lot. Why you're Frenchman, where in fact he had a castle, everything, the family grew up in an environment like that. Now why is in Oregon? because Oregon has more freedom than France. We have roughly the same landscape. We have a lot of forest. The nature is still, I would say, pretty much intact. We don't have so much vineyards, means we can do very nice farming, our own ecosystem, biodynamic, organic farming. We are lucky for that. I hope we preserve it. And you have a less conservative approach in Oregon on things. And the people want to do better and better and better. I don't say that France is not doing that, no. But for me, it was a challenge. When you grow up in an environment when everything is already built, that's much harder because you have to continue. And when you are hyper nervous, you want to do on the go, you want to do things, create everything, no, you cannot. You have a pressure. In Oregon, you don't have pressure. The pressure is your creativity can be expressed, yes, somehow. I don't know if I answered your question.
I think you did a little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit. So you talked about, you saw a lot of wine regions. You saw New Zealand and South Africa. You saw Australia.
I've seen a lot.
You obviously saw Bordeaux. How did Oregon compare when you got here to other places you had seen, and what was the potential you saw?
I've been in Oregon I will put a parallel between Oregon and New Zealand. In Oregon, the potential when I came in 1995 was still, while many vineyards were already established, everything, so it was, I will say, a hunger to learn, to discover more, to be better. Better in winemaking, better in viticulture. The concept of farming already organically, these kind of things, it was already starting to talk about it. It was a sense of community, strong sense of community. The ego management was not, it was okay. You know what I mean? You will go to another winemaker, you will give a call, stuff like that. Hey, I have a question for you, in your mind, everything. It was a community. It was team bought in at the time. It was the beginning. It was winemakers we meet. And every time it was a question, how do we do? What do you think? It was overall a community sense. It was not the beginning, of course. But there is still many wineries coming more and more, slowly, nicely, and asking questions and meeting each other. Without any competitiveness, ego, secret. The business was not usually, I don't remember, being so big as a business form. Even King Estate was a large winery, It was more about progress, learning, understanding the soil, the farming, the vineyard management, especially in the 90s vintage were some extent challenging. 97 was an horrific vintage, rain, laquelle, botrytis everywhere. It means that you could feel the cool climate. And that's Pinot Noir land. Pinot Noir is difficult, very difficult at the beginning. And then after our soil, understanding our soil. And it means that we rely on each other at the time, I believe. We rely on each other to share information. How can I do? And nobody will go, I'm talking, was not like California, where already was a huge competition, egos. No, it was really down to earth. And that I liked a lot. And in New Zealand, it was a similar way. Where in France at the time, already, wineries has been known by families or groups, financial groups, for a long time. It means it was like we don't communicate between each other. Even in university, it was, how we say, we think like engineers, but we forget sometimes to think like a farmer. In Oregon, the farmer aspect was really definitively there. And that I loved it. Honestly, that's a cool place to be. Huh?
You talked about Pinot. Obviously, Pinot was something you probably had to learn and discover. Tell me about getting to know Pinot Noir and what attracted you to it as you started working with it.
But it was a Pinot Noir, in fact, at the beginning, I learned because me, I was a Cabernet, Merlot, Malbec guy, okay. And I think a little bit of a Maribor side, because in Bordeaux, you know, Pinot Noir, we don't want to see. My grandfather would tell me every time, as a provocative way, he say, in Bordeaux we make wine, in Burgundy we make beverage. Just, and I love the man. I think maybe my uncle, just to piss them off, decided to make Pinot Noir, just to prove them wrong. No, because Pinot Noir also is a varietal who is very sensitive. And I like challenge. And discover the finesse of Pinot Noir, the difficulty to make Pinot Noir, growing grapes in Pinot Noir, sensitive to botrytis, to mildew, to disease, and also on the cellar. As a forgiven varietal, I call that. And this challenge was wonderful. Also was a form of creativity, understanding the intuitions. You can have the science behind, you need to have some form of intuitions, intuitivity on the concept of you make wine in a certain level. You can look at your books every time or your past experience. No, at a certain level you need to have the feeling. And the Pinot Noir for me was a varietal, when I was young, it was not a question to drink Pinot Noir. I would drink Pinot Noir. It was not prohibited by law. But Bordeaux, we tell you, University of Bordeaux, we tell you Merlot, Cabernet, okay. Me, I wanted to discover something else. And in New Zealand, in fact, originally, I was not planning to make Pinot Noir or working on Pinot Noirs. And I discovered this varietal. And the difference between these varietals overall and Pinot Noir especially, and the finesse needs to be worked on. The techniques was to be applied. The punch down, just the concept of punch down. For me was totally, I knew by the books, but not really in practice. And for that was the challenge. And was also, you know, was a challenge in the sense that the Pinot Noir is a wine with a really fraction of terroir, definitively. There is the Pinot Noir expresses the terroir, the soil, big time. And I may be wrong, I may put angry some people who do Merlot, Cabernet, they things, but I think there is more expressivity on terroir, on the Pinot Noir. And because I am a man who lacks the sense of place and the sense of time, I like to work on that. And I love Pinot Noir also. At the beginning, to drink it. But I love all wines. I'm totally open to all wines. But I like my honesty. That's it. That's a wine reflect an honesty. That's a reflect a story. And after, I'm totally open-minded to anything. I have varietals I love also. The climate change, maybe in Oregon, in 25 years, 30 years, 50 years, we may change a varietal. I don't know. Hope not. But we will adapt. And the Pinot Noir, like I said, is challenging regarding farming. We are unforgiven varietal. And it means it makes people better overall. That's my opinion. That's,
You talked about sense of place. Tell me about learning a new place, understanding a vineyard, understanding a terroir. How do you go about it? How long does it take you to feel like you are comfortable with a place?
Well, that's a deep question, that. When you are never completely fully comfortable with a place. However, there is place, number one, who will prove you wrong or right. Means there is no truth. The first thing I do is usually I look at books and I look at the history. What happened? I am a big fan of archives. I'm a big fan of reading, for example, you know, in France, for example, you will have the records of winemaking by the church. And you have archives on that. And you will see vintage after vintage, because the church will make wine. And they will record temperature, we record what happened. And already you have this kind of aspect of human being and relationship with the land. And the tradition, what happened as a tradition. Then after I look at the books on pedology and science, and geology, and pedology. I love that. I'm a little bit nerdy on this one. Agrology. And already give me a kind of picture. And then after there is a connection of the land. You know, when I go in a vineyard, for example, the first thing I look, that was a biodynamic organic type, mind. I don't look at the vine. I look at the soil. And I look around the farm, especially the boundaries. How many flowers I'm going to see, how many indigenous species I'm going to see, what is the biodiversity around. That the soil has been hurt. It has been hurt by chemicals in the past, or extreme intensive farming, or that the soil has an history. Trees, the trees around tell you a lot of things. And after, okay, you have these things. And after the people around, when you're talking about the sense of place, is it a vineyard or is it a region? A region, so you have a culture. Southern Oregon, there is a culture in Southern Oregon. Good or bad, I don't know. But this culture needs to be implicated. Southern Oregon has a different, Illinois Valley has a different culture than Eugene, Lorraine area. Then after, different from Northern Oregon, Willamette Valley. Fairly different. And because the people works on this area, that's them who put the vines. That's them who tender the vines. That's them who do a good job. And that has an implication already on the quality of the land, on the story. And then after, we start to make our own wine. And we discover what can we improve. Can we always improve something? We cannot improve the land. It does not happen. We cannot improve the geology. But we can improve the pathology system, the control. We can improve maybe the perception of quality. And means that it takes time. It takes a huge amount of time to really be confident on a place. That's a complex, definition of, what is a place at the beginning. And then after, for example, you are talking about one vineyard specifically to another vineyard. Sometimes I was thinking, well, this one is not going to give me, I don't think it's going to give me great things. And he delivers something which is absolutely unexpected. Despite the fact that the geology doesn't show any exceptional sites. Despite the fact that there is nothing on paper who can prove me that that's a wonderful site. But the result is, the fact that, yes, that's a great site. Why? I don't have a clue. And that pisses me off to don't know. Because it makes me nuts. Or you have, despite also, you have some sites who you think fantastic, on paper, who deliver great wines, but we don't deliver the wow. They don't deliver it. I don't know why. I come back to when I was in France, university. I took pedology. Pedology, that's the subsoil science. And I had the chance to have a professor named Seguin, Professor Seguin. And this guy was fantastic, because all his life, he tried to demonstrate what is the notion of terroir, but in science way. And he was involved with the Gregory Jones, even, because he was like the mentor of a terroirist, geologist, geographist. It was interesting because when we go with him in some sites in France, in Bordeaux area, and he would tell me this one we have some secret river underground, everything, so that takes, he has an effect. But he has to prove scientifically, which is rather difficult to do. It's very difficult to prove something in science based. And in fact, why, for example, some sites where the wine can be bottled and aged forever? Why a wine can age for a long time? And why a wine does not age as well? That's hard to prove. And that's the sense of place, that's the sense of sites, that's the terroir. The terroir includes the people, includes the soil, includes the climate. But there is many parameters who makes me completely nuts to not know. but also makes me as a form of art. Same thing. It's a question of intuitions and feelings. And that takes time to develop the feeling. You don't fall in love with somebody in one day. Huh? Well, you can. Never worked for me. But it means that you always have to keep your eyes open. Oregon, when I came here, due to the nature of the people, the community sense, the volcanic soils, the history of the land, and oh boy, we have a new history on geology. 15,000 years ago, only the Missoula flood. The volcanic period was not so long time ago, in geology period, compared over many places in the world. And it means you feel the vibrations, you feel the pH on the wine, the acidity, the support, and that comes from the soil. And in Oregon, we understood that quickly. And we didn't try to copy California. We didn't try to copy France. We copy ourselves, Oregon. And that's already a sense of place. The identity was already born due to the old guys and with the new generation of winemakers who came, who kept this identity of the Willamette Valley. And that was important.
So let's pick it back up in 2004. You're in the Illinois Valley. How did you end up here?
My mistake, no, I'm joking. No, I was following, in fact, taking estate, Brad especially, because me, I was nothing. Brad, he was my best friend also. We talked already in 1996, 97 about biodynamic, organic farming and biodynamic. He was quite interested about that. And me, I had already an approach in biodynamic. I grew up, with homeopathic treatment in medical system, everything, alternative methods, the impact of, negative impact of synthetic products, the mildew, for example, the tolerance of the fungus, mutations. And already university in France, you already had a lot of classes of ecosystem, ecology was important, but and the ethics, especially. Means already I was interested by that. Biology was, of course, like 99%, we say, conventional farming, but had an ecosystem. You have bears next to the vineyard. During harvest, we are dealing with people, the grapes and bears. They will come to the cellar even because they love berries. It means there's already an ecosystem. Okay, but Cooper Mountain, I heard about Cooper Mountain in 1999. And with Bob Gross, big time on the biodynamic. I was very interested by that. In fact, I came in, if I believe, I'm old. In 1999, I came here for a seminar for that. And it means when I knew that it was for me to come back to the vineyard also and to the authenticity, the farming, plus the philosophy, this kind of philosophy to attach that, because it was more my philosophy also. I talked to Bob, and I said, Papa, I want to work. And Bob and I remember meeting him on his kitchen, talking to me, and we connect right away. And also it was for me to change my life a little bit, to life-changing moments, and to come back to maybe something I love, really love. I bridge you and King say, well, fantastic, yeah? But to come back to a notion of farming and challenge. And since that, I make wine. And I work with the vineyard manager, I work with Bob Aragos, and I connect with the people also in the farm. At Cooper Mountain, we have a lot of employees who has been there longer than me, in the farm. I'm talking about Gerardo Sanchez. He has been here in 1997. Borderline, I said to people, he is born in a winery, in a farm. My assistant, Everardo Sanchez, he has been in the winery since 2001. Here we have a lot of people who have been here a long time. Huh? That demonstrates that also they're happy. Huh? And what the hell, you want to work on a place when people are happy, no? And they put up with me, which is unbelievable. Because I'm crazy also. Huh? No, and Cooper Mountain was biodynamic, organic, plus the people. Right? You cannot do biodynamic is about people. That's not about treatments. That's not about I have my horns, I put my manure, and now that's the technique. No, that's more than that. That's a philosophy also. That's a view of things. And at the time, biodynamic, when people told me, oh, you go to Cooper Mountain, they are going to add the crystals on the vineyard. Yeah. Okay. I haven't seen any crystals on the vineyard, no. I haven't seen any people naked with a druid, with a magic wand, no. No. That's just a spirit, that's just philosophy, which is in fact the people are in the center of the farm. We are the people, we are also the expression of terroir. It means this philosophy, there is nothing new about it. Biodynamic has nothing new. We just use common sense. And the common sense that that's farming. The synthetic products were bounded to problems. You fight the nature. But the problem is, when you fight the nature is going to win, no matter what. It means you keep your time fighting the nature. In biodynamic, you integrate the nature. The nature is not a problem. This is not a problem. We are the problem. And what we do means we give immunity, we increase the immune system on the plant. We increase the immune system, we use the energy, we increase the biodiversity on the soil to deal with nature. And nature will change, always change. On a long time, a short term, you have seasons, you have everything. And us, we just follow. We just follow, but we teach the land to adapt properly. And that's okay. Things are fine over on the long run. When are we to die? You know what I mean? Sure, there is some challenge, we need to be on the top, and we have connections, emotional connections on the land also. But when you are working on conventional farming, maybe, I don't know, because I don't have a lot of experience on farming on conventional. Especially when you are buying fruit, for example, but you have a less attachment, emotional attachment to the place. Me, for example, I'm a romantic type of guy. It means I need to have like a love affair with the vineyard, with the land. I need to have, I need to feel okay with it. And feeling is sometimes you cannot put words on it. There's some place, for example, I love or not the greatest place in the planet. I don't care. So easy. You feel good on this vineyard. You're happy with the plants. And that's not going to make the 100 points wines. Yeah, that's okay. There is nothing wrong with it. And some places are making majestic wines. And the feeling will be the same. Or I treat the vineyard like you treat your own kids. You have 3 kids, 4 kids, I don't know if you're. Okay, they're all amazing, they piss you off, they're like that, but okay, you love them the same way. That's it, you respect. You just respect.
So tell me about what this place looked like when you got here, and what was it you wanted to bring to what Cooper Mountain was already doing?
That's a good question, this one. You all have a good question.
Thank you very
much. No, I appreciate it. No. Oh, you think I'm strange? Because me, I don't bring anything. A winemaker doesn't exist. Honestly. My job is to understand the vision. I bring a little bit because I have a big ego anyway. But I try to contribute to, number one, the happiness of the people, especially on the farm, and the respect. My job is to, in fact, not exist. A winemaker should not exist. The term winemaker, I don't understand the term winemaker at the beginning. Honestly. I know properties, I know wineries, I know vineyards, but we are a guy. And if I was saying I have an impact on a winery, well, there's a problem. Because in fact, I'm not trying to confuse you or anyone, but modesty is good sometimes. You have the land, the vineyards, they have a potential. Okay. Then after there is a philosophy set up. My job is to relay from the owner the philosophy on the land. That's it. That's pretty much that. Means also to have the vineyard crew to do a great job. And to be in communication with the vineyard crew. And to be respected. That's the key element. And to be respected by my boss. Then after we express what we have in the cellar and to make wine, but based on the philosophy of what we have. Then after things evolve, change, market change, demand change, but the spirit needs to remain the same overall. Then after, we are going to make the best we can with what we have. And there is no problem. Me, my input on that is just to verbalize what we need, what all the problems are, what the quality are, and try to put the team together. That's it. But me as the winemaker, I can be replaced anytime I want. People want. Winemaker should not exist. Winemaker exists in the sense of position. But in US, for example, we are obsessivity having the winemaker with a glass of wine in the vineyard for the pictures. What Jesus Christ? That was my French way, that. Huh? You don't know who is a winemaker at Chateau Margaux. You don't know who is a winemaker at Romanée-Conti. In fact, you don't have a clue who are they. They are not a wine spectator. Because what makes a wine? That's Romanée-Conti. That's Chateau Margaux. That's Chateaubriand. That's this kind of place. Amazing place. Absolutely fabulous. And the people who work there are happy. But they don't need the fame. And me, my fame is just, how do I say, a great vintage. We make great wines from great soil. My job is to, in fact, just to transform the product and to make it as a wine. That's it. You have to be dumb to destroy your wine. Huh? But it's easy to make wine, in fact. When you have the great grapes, the great soil, that's easy. However, some vintage are not great. 2011 was one of my best vintage ever, because 2011 was very late vintage. Me, I'm a drama queen. In a sense, I feel the stuff. In the first week of October, it was raining the crop laquelle. And we didn't even have a veraison, a full veraison. Far away. We are 50% veraison. I'm wondering even we are going to harvest. So much, because it was raining so much. And it was so late, I said, we are going to harvest in Christmas or what? But anyway. And it was a terrific vintage. It happened to be a very good vintage. But why it was a very good vintage? Sure, there is a climate after. After end of October was beautiful. But there is more than that. There is the people. The vineyard crew was working their butt off until November to keep the fruit clean against the botrytis. The cellar crew, when we harvested, was working with the cold condition. Was working the hours and 18 hours a day because we have to harvest fast after. Everybody did the best they can. Me, I was the guy who was crazy, wacko, nervous. But everybody, not a single guy on the team put us down, was complaining. They worked immensely beautifully. Okay, that was my job, to make sure that they work beautifully and to motivate them, to let them understand the challenge we have and to wake up the passion and the intelligence of each employee. That's the key element. We use their intelligence. They are not robots. A guy who punch down is not a puncher. He makes wine as me. Me, I just tell him, hey, we do that this way. What do you think? First, I ask always, what do you think? Always. Let's talk. I think we are going to do that, and I'll explain to you why. I don't know if I answered your question. I'm going all over the place. But these things, put together, that's that. Me as a winemaker, I'm just a guy like that. That's it. After, Cooper Mountain will be remembered for being founded by Robert Gross and Corey Gross. We have Barbara Gross here. Me, I'm just a guy going along. That's it, and that's fine. We will remember for the vineyard manager here because he's the history. He's a talent also. That's him who makes me grapes. That's him who does the work. Anyway, me, I'm just here the guy between.
So with that said, then, tell me about how the wines have evolved. What has changed here as the vines have aged and as you've started to understand the place?
But the wines evolve, okay. First I learn, in the same time, at the beginning, I deal with have to deal with. And I'm not the super talented winemaker who is going to make a revolution complete on the wine style, no. First I take what is the story of what happened here. And then after I try to understand, what was wrong, what was done right, everything, and with modesty. And with fear also, because you are dealing with history. It's not a brand new winery here. And first I worked with Rich Schmidt, who was the previous winemaker here. Amazing man. And who guided me, gave me his opinion, but also let me free to do things. And he said, he was consulting here. And Rich Schmidt was still the man, a top winemaker. Means he guided me. Then after, understanding the vineyard, later on, Cooper Mountain acquired a new vineyard also, by the time. Means I have to learn these vineyards. And we, like everything, we change, we modify. That means I have to modify also myself for what is the response of their wish. With full agreement, of course. Means the wine evaluated, because normally, and I don't see a major evolution on the staff, but for example, the owner sometimes pop ideas, I want, let's make no sulfite wines, like that, but let's make it very good, everything. And that's great, that's wonderful. We make no sulfite wines a little bit, name a Pinot Noir Life, that's a challenge. But in fact, we took it like, let's do it, but let's do it the best we can, but especially without the fear of disappointing. And let's do even with the science base, means with some experiments, I want to document things. Means I use, for example, the no sulfite wines as a comparison between sulfited wines versus no sulfite wines, and compare between microorganisms. What happened, in fact, on a no sulfite wine during the barrel aging? What happened? And I discover a lot in enology, more than people think. Huh? And it means that's fun. That's very fun. And the consumer seems to like our wines. So far, I haven't seen anyone coming to the cellar and slam my face. No, we have an attachment, the people understand the integrity of what we do here. We, the honesty, which is, for honesty, how do I say, when I say honesty, the terroir expression. And we become commercial, but we understand also the philosophy, and we want to give the sense of place to people. Means there is an evolution, of course, made at the beginning, and then after at the end. But modestly, I don't think I was a magic wand, guys, who change everything. No, I'm part of the system who wants that we have an evolution and evolvement with still organic and biodynamic farming philosophy. That has never changed, ever. Until my own death. Anyway, that's it's difficult to in fact respond to that regarding my input and my evolution. Vintage after vintage, you learn. You learn your own failure. The problem is winemaking, sometimes, when I say winemaking or vineyard management, you don't know what is failure. Because that's strange, but that's true. When you're in accounting job, you know. If it doesn't match the numbers, okay, you fail somewhere. But in winemaking, you don't know if it's your decision, you don't know if it's at what level the vintage had an impact, at what level you had an impact, at what level the economics factor has an impact, the people around you has an impact. Means that's hard to really define sometimes. What I know is every year I make wine, less I know. Every year I put myself in question. And that was important. That's very important. As a nut job, but that's beautiful. Eh? But every year, I put myself in question. I take personally when I make a bad wine, which is unusual, of course. No, yeah, bad wine. We don't make a bad wine. I never made a bad wine. But sometimes the baby disappoint you. Sometimes they are rewarding you. A lot of times they are, wow, I'm happy. Okay, good job, Gilles. You know, the babies, I call that my babies. Because each blocks for me was babies. And for example, you sometimes, hopefully I don't make any mistakes, but we all do mistakes, but the problem is I don't know which mistakes I make. If I make mistakes, I don't know. Or it means you have to put yourself in question and put yourself, the team, in question. Ask the team what we did wrong and what we did right. Because also we have to pat ourselves on the back. That's a more philosophical aspect. Sorry for I'm not giving a clear answer.
No, it's fantastic. It's really good.
Tell
me about this site then. You've been here for 20 years. You know it pretty well. What is the terroir here? What is unique about the wines here?
That's a good question. Also, well, we have several vineyards. Okay, the historical vineyards are, in fact, each one are different. Overall, the terroir, okay, we are here, for example, the All Vines vineyard, that's a some soil. That's, in fact, a mixture of Jory soil with some Nekia and some soil who are a little bit borderline, the same soil you find on Montwood area. That's very unique. The characteristics of this wine are really authentic type. Absolutely authentic, in the sense that the Pinot Noir, for example, from barely 10 acres, I have one Pinot Noir radically different on tasting profile than another, which is like a borderline, I will say, 200 feet away. Radically different. Why? Because one is the soil has nothing to do. That's the division of soil, pure geological aspect. And already that's fun to work with. These wines are fairly unique for the acidity and the tannin profile also. And we have another vineyard that just called Vineyard. This one, that's more site with the Chelime Mountain AVA, but also with some Helvetia type soil, laurel wood a little bit, stress soil on some areas, stress soil, which is good for vineyard. And it means the expressions are going to be radically different also. It means there is a multitude of different expressivity on the wine. I don't know if it's English. Yeah, the different expression on the wine. And the key element is, for example, for us, is to try to deliver some wines who are very good, of course, but also we express something different. Means the consumer may prefer a Pinot Noir vines, may prefer a Pinot Noir just school, may prefer another type of Pinot Noir. They will have maybe what they match on their spirit, and also let them discover other things. That's borderline the wine, or that become suddenly very deep. The wine is about sense. Okay. And when you are a wine with a sense, means you let the people discover their sense. Of course, the people doesn't like to discover things. we are feeling comfortable if you notice on sense. We are a little bit cautious. For example, if you pour a glass of wine to somebody, the person is going to say, "What is it?" You know, sometimes we should tell them a test. Okay, why you ask me that? What is it? Why you want to have a DNA on the wine? Okay, test and you see if you like it or not. Okay, means the people are going to say, what is it? The first thing you want. We need to know, and that's the psychology. Okay, and when you have a multitude of soil, that's very interesting because in fact you play. That's like you play with the perception of sense. And the Pinot Noir, like I mentioned at the beginning, Pinot Noir is very reflective of terroir. Has a huge reflection on terroir. Massive. And that is beautiful. Because not far away from each site, you can find a lot of difference. And it become an identity. It's what I appreciate a lot, personally. Or it means each one has a different characteristic, but we try to enhance the notion of terroir by being as simplistic as we can. And when you're organic, biodynamic, also winemaking, because you need farming and winemaking, you enhance in a certain way this notion of terroir also. And so that's difficult sometimes. It can be difficult, but we do. And we do without fear. On some difficult vintage, some people say, "Oh my gosh, you're organic, biodynamic, must be hard." Huh? But yeah, that's hard, but hey, we do. Huh? Well, what to do? We're not going to cry. Huh? I'm not going to do that and that and that. No. And he brings, that was my French side, that I know for a long history, he brings a fertilization on people on the site. I can tell you some stories of generations of people, for example, who drink a wine from the east flank of a winery, and we never, for generations, drink the west side. You know, they are, for example, this property. The other are the enemies, borderline. Because the taste is different. And the opposite, in a sense. And in a certain way, each winery has their own identification, in a certain way, and that's fantastic. There's a diversity of palates. There is no things like who is the best. Then it is that. But how consistent you are on your profile. And the profile cannot be come from the soil.
So you mentioned obviously biodynamic organic is the whole process, not just the farming. How does that change your approach in the winery, and are there limitations that you have struggled with, especially in difficult vintages?
We have limitations, yes, on difficult vintage, but okay, the standards are not, extremely. I would say the standards understand, okay, the issues of winemakers, and it means we take that in account. There is some stuff we cannot do. Okay, but hopefully, I think nobody, even a winemaker is conventional, we want to do anyway. Hopefully, like for example, the copper sulfate additions on the wines, to remove any form of mercaptan or the H2S. Okay, no winemaker, even in commercial farming, wants to do it. And our job is to not do it, to prevent the problem before it happens. Means there is nothing against conventional farming, conventional winemaking. The distinction is not massive. That's not a challenge per se, no. After with experience, also, you start to deal with some choice you make, but the choices are minor. That's not a massive challenge, no. Modestly enough, no. Especially by the time overall now the science, enology has increased with knowledge on chemistry, knowledge of formation of molecules. For enology degree means we have a better understanding. We can do more and more natural way things without impairment of quality, the opposite even. I told you that I'm a big fan of wine history. I can tell you that if you drink a wine from 1950s in Oregon, from 1970s in Oregon, I'm sure that the level of SO2 sulfites on the wines, for protective, was probably immense. I'm sure even. I'm very sure. Okay, any winemaker worldwide, organic, biodynamic, or even conventional, understand that SO2 level too high can impair the quality of the wine. Means their job is to decrease the addition of SO2, the maximum they can. And that's all my colleagues are like that. Us, we just are a little bit 5 years ahead of the time. That's it. But everybody agree on that. Everybody agree that the more you fine a wine, you add a fining agent, the more you strip the wine. Means the dream is to not find any wine you have. Everybody agree, conventional or organic or biodynamic. Means the difference is us, we have a label, we say it. But all my colleagues who are conventional also have the same approach. Mm-hmm. I will be rude if I say the opposite, because I will be lying. We all want quality. We want to do nothing. A winemaker is lazy by nature. We just want to do nothing. I love coffee in the morning, test, party, I have my ego big, but no, we don't want to do anything special on the wines.
Obviously, the organic and biodynamics in Oregon have picked up a lot since you started. Tell me what you've seen in Oregon in that sense, in the biodynamic farming, organic farming sense. How has it grown and evolved in the 20 or so years that you've been involved?
A first experience, like I told you before, okay, when I said that we go to Cooper Mountain, people tell me, we are going to have the crystals, or you are going to see people naked on the vineyard, looking for the sun, anyway, some stuff. Anyway, well, at the beginning, we were to be wacko. Okay, that was obvious. Wrong fully, because in fact, okay, we are science-oriented, down to earth, big time. Okay, that's not a belief. Biodynamic is not a belief. Okay. Means he involved, because Oregon, number one, has a capacity absolutely unique to have a lot of space. We have a unique capacity of having a lot of space. We have a lot of forests around us. We have vineyards with a lot of boundaries, natural boundaries. We love our blackberries. Okay, and the blackberries are perfect buffer zone between a farmer who is conventional to, when you have a huge pile of blackberries or a wall of blackberries, that's fantastic. We have birds, we have a lot of things like that. And we are lucky in Oregon is to have that already at the beginning. We are not a vineyard planted everywhere, okay, like a crazy. It means the farmer understood. Many farmers, vineyards especially, understood that maybe, okay, that's a technique. Well, when they compare with the conventional farming, well, I spend my time spending a fortune on a bunch of chemicals that I spray like a crazy, and no matter what, I have to change my chemical in the year after because there is a mutation from the fungus who adapt to the chemical. It means there's a chase, permanently a chase. At the beginning, they were thinking we're wacko, but in fact, we were thinking, I think that I truly believe, organic especially, they were afraid. A lot of them were afraid of doing it, but they liked it. But they were afraid. And fear dominates when you're a farmer. A lot of times we do things based on prevention, but also on fear of having a problem. And we overreact many times. Then, some, like Cooper Mountain, they start to see the grapes. Okay, shit, that's not bad what we do here. Seems to work, this one. Okay. And then we, more and more vineyards in Oregon start to develop that, gently, slowly, nicely. And more and more means over vineyards start to understand maybe that's the future. What I've seen a huge, massive change in the last 20 years. From being the wacko label, wacko crazy to, we say, but now we are borderline organic, biodynamic is borderline commercial farming now. Because there are so many vineyards and wineries who are doing that. I wish to see more biodynamic certified winery, however. I wish to see more organic certified winery. Why certification? That was my Che Guevara style. Because certification, the people want trust. Okay. And the trust is important. The financial crisis in 2008 proved to people that don't trust your banker because he collapsed. Many people, millions of people lost their job when the Federal Reserve Bank a year after said, don't worry, there is nothing happening, everything is fine. Okay, and guess what? He didn't know. Nothing was fine. Since, for example, this period, I consider that the people need to have something on the label. And this something on the label needs to be strong and serious here. And also, more we have a certification, more we'll have on the label, more people will understand what is organic and what is biodynamic. Spreading the word is important. And an average person, for example, who take the label, like the wine, turn the label and say, oh, the certified biodynamic. What is biodynamic? Wikipedia is for that, Google is for that. And they start to be interested. Huh, okay. And the world maybe will be much better. Maybe, I don't know. If we were having more organic farms. And especially where organic farms with accessible pricing. Because bigger we are going to be on the biodynamic system, more we are going to evaluate, more we are going to improve the science behind it, I hope so anyway, and means more we will produce organic, biodynamic products and organic products accessible to the mass. That's my communist side, maybe, my utopist side, but that's important. So far, biodynamic, on wine, however, that's for the rich people. Okay. And nowadays, that's not good to be. At Cooper Mountain, I'm very proud of that at Cooper Mountain. We have several labels. We have one with $18 to $20 retail. And this one is certified organic, and we are also biodynamic. And that, I'm very proud of that. Because the average person can have access a minimum of something with not $80. They like it or they don't like it, but at least they can test the zip of energy. And they like it, okay, they don't like it. But at least they have access. In California, some wineries are doing that, and that's fine, and I like it also. I applaud that, because it can be made also, you can make quality, sustainable, but real sustainability, and how do I say, accessible in pricing. When I came back in 20 years, the argument I had about people who are biodynamic denier, I said to them, okay, we use preparations, that we make. We dilute in water absolute quantity unbelievable. For example, if I spray silica, that's going to be 1 teaspoon per acre. Dilute in 50 gallons. 1 teaspoon. I said the worst that can happen is we do nothing. We have done absolutely nothing. Me, that's totally useless. Okay, I said to the guy every time, or the people, I said, name me a farming in farming where in fact it doesn't hurt. Organic can hurt. Organic, if you spray a bunch of sulfur, you are going to kill a lot of, with insects who are your friends. Okay, I mean you have to be careful. Biodynamic, the worst that can happen, we do nothing. We spend our time to do zero because there is absolutely no evidence it works. And guess what? Maybe we do. And we do nothing, we are happy because I think it works. And that the people at the beginning were, that's why they are thinking, well, it doesn't work. Okay, but it doesn't work. Okay, but let us do it. Okay, we don't hurt anything by doing that. We don't cause any problem. But now, the same people now are thinking, well, it works now. How can you prove in science? No. You can read some data, something like that. No, scientifically, that's impossible to fact. That's impossible. That's possible. You give me $20 million, a minimum, I need 400 acres, $20, I need to have 5 universities, $20 million, 5 universities working on that, but there's a complex soil. Huh? The interaction, soil, science, weather, people, like that, the parameters, modalities. Maybe we put something, some data, interesting data to read. A day biodynamic will be understood, clearly understood, you know. There is nothing new on biodynamic. But the evolution has been, now there is an open-mindedness. But I wish to see, however, I rent myself a little bit here, more labels, saying on the label, in fact, biodynamic farming and certification. But there is a little bit an excuse, we say, hey, it costs too much, certification, oh, that's too much paperwork. No, but not too much paperwork, no, sorry for your inconvenience. In fact, it helps, the paperwork helps, because it helps to put on paper what you do. It helps to have some rigor also. You know, I'm a geeky guy also, I love the workstation, for example. Every day I check my workstations on the vineyard we have at Shedheim. I like data, I like numbers, I'm not a wacko guy, no. I love science, big time.
So given what you said about sort of the fear keeping people from being organic or biodynamic, and the perceptions you had of they were telling you of the kind of the wacky crystal people up here on the hill, what do you think has caused so many more people to start farming that way?
Because I think there is a demand, number one, because they start to see, they start to test, they start to see, but well, it works, It works. You know, we don't rush to the drugs, to the OVS, or buying a bunch of chemical products secretly. They go on the vineyard, the people stop by on the vineyard quite a lot. My colleagues stop by, have a look at the grapes. On different sites we see, and we see that we're organic, biodynamic, we don't have mildew. We don't have a bunch of mildew, that's not an issue. It means, why in the world we are going to spend on sensitive product, having more headaches on everything else, when in fact we can do it. And that the word to mouth start to spray. And they start to understand that many wineries start to do it, many vineyards start to do it. So far, I mean, nobody has seen a complete collapse of the system. No, the fear dominates. When you're a farmer, that's human. That's the fear. Nobody wants to spray some crap. Life certification came with some rules established. Means there's an arrangement that conventional farming, in a certain extent, can be damaging. That's already a step. Okay, you have a life certification. Then you have organic certification, means there is a sense overall on the Oregon community to obviously go on sustainability system. Nobody, like I said, wants to kill a vineyard worker. Nobody wants to poison people. Nobody wants, unless you are a psychopath. But you don't make wine if you are a psychopath. No, anyway, that's that. And we have seen a damage worldwide. There is enough database, you know, in Europe they are thinking there is a fight about banning Roundup. The court in France has defined that Roundup is officially has caused brain tumor. That's a fact. And you know, the court doesn't make decision based on the article of newspaper. They make, you know, it takes years of decisions, of study. Okay, there is fact. Why do you want to poison people? Especially when you're making wine, that land is overall for vineyard a poor land. You know, that's not a land for wheat. They are beautiful lands. Why do you want to destroy the crop? What a point. And you do that for the future generation also. When you plant a vineyard not for you. You plant your vineyard for your grandkids. If you do for you, you need a psychologist or you need an ego management, unless you're Californian, rich Californian. No, you do that for your own kids. That's going to be lasting a long time. Anyway, it means you want to do the most sustainable way as possible. The people has now, there is a majority of understanding. 20 years ago, it was really little understanding of that. Now, that's, I think, a majority of growers, wineries want the most sustainable things as possible. Like water irrigation, same thing. Use less water as possible. The water is gold. The planet is going through some challenge absolutely immense. And that's a duty we must have to protect what we have. That's my opinion, that's common sense.
So in what other ways have you seen Oregon's wine industry change? Outside of those ways, what else has changed in your time in the Oregon wine industry?
Before we are smoking pot illegally, and now we smoke pot legally. No, I'm joking, that's a joke. That's a joke. No. Okay, Oregon has become bigger, definitively, has become more industry. That's good, in a way also, but that's good and very some bad. Like everything, there's positive and negative. Positive, that's because it means the world of Oregon is more global. Now, internationally, Oregon is recognized. Due to also to the expansion of wineries, due to the marketing powerhouse also, because you cannot do without money. You can make the best wine in the world if you don't have money. Nobody cares. People have to know. It means it helps, gigantically, but we have also a lot of talent. Means before we had talent, the difference is we attract more talents. Winemakers from California, from all across the planet. And with the vision, and with the beauty, and they can improve the things or change even if they want. We have the city of Portland, who, with some urban wineries, who are also like a natural wine movement, who in a certain way challenge, but also that's good to challenge, because là-bas you put the system in a little bit on a shaking period, but that's good, because diversification of things. The negative things, because I'm negative by nature, the negative things is it becomes too much an industry. And we tend to forget sometimes that we need to be a community. The community has not to be only on marketing, but it has to be also on the production side. That was the negative things. Means I never wanted to work in California. I'm allergic to California. Just no, because there are too many French people there. I didn't want to work in California because everything is competition, the cost of living, and people are on their brain are thinking about competition, wages, increase, everything like that. They forget sometimes they forget the farming aspect. Some places no, hopefully. However, in Oregon, okay, let's hope that we don't become like a huge industry system. We need to sometimes remind ourselves that we are Oregon specific, with our own challenge. Nature is not going to change. And one thing we know. Now, it doesn't mean that we have known also many years, some very good years, 2 decades of very, very good vintage. I hope the cycle doesn't change. Because that you will see, for example, I don't say that's going to happen, but imagine you have a 3 or 4 by vintage on a row, that suddenly we need to put ourselves in question here. And while in Oregon we tend to have a nature to be conservative on many things, this conservatism is in certain ways good, but we wish sometimes to have a little bit, to come back what used to be before, a little bit more cooperation without the challenge, ego management, talking openly to problems, like the smoke. The fire in 2020 was, everybody was crying, I was the first. But the winery cancelled contracts, the growers did the best they can, the poor guy. Some wineries did not cancel contracts. Because we understood, okay, I like my grower. I respect him. What I'm going to do is enter the fruit, and after we talk about pricing. If the wine is totally crap, okay, we are going to talk about that. We are going to support the grower we have. But that's community. Some, however, I don't care. Boom, we cancel the contract. I don't care if my grower is going to bankrupt. Okay, it's a little bit sad, but I understand money. I understand the concept of financials. But okay. Oregon has an history. A good, pretty damn good history overall. Very good history even. The change has been more industrialization overall, more money overall, but also more talent. And this talent brings change. And the change, however, you don't remove the roots, because you don't remove the land. You don't remove anything with the basic of the Oregon, specificity of Oregon at the beginning. Means what the future will do, I don't know. I'm not God. I wish to be, but I'm not. Overall, in fact, I'm very optimistic for Oregon. Very optimistic because the land doesn't change. The nature will always put back. If you have any flow, for example, too much egos, everything, we think we're too much superb, we're $100 bottle of wine everywhere, that's going to come down. That's a farming concept.
What comes next for you? What are you looking ahead to for yourself?
Well, I don't know. Continue making wine. I am 54 years old. Okay, I'm not near to die today. Sorry, I'm not near death yet. I had plenty of things happening to my life. Means my story is huge. I went through the great things, the terrible things. Means my future is about peace and living my life, making my passions always. I love farming. I love what I don't project in my future in a way. I've always been living in. I've been living always on the system that life is an adventure. Still. Like I said at the beginning, I said nothing is acquired. That was mentality. I've seen people die next to me, the loved one, my wife, die, my late wife, unfortunately. These kind of things means suddenly things can change very radically due to cancer, these kind of things. Or it means I take life always as an adventure. I am lucky enough to have enough fundings to save money because I'm cheap for the rest of my life. And it means I follow the wind. Like just that. I don't plan to buy Gallo. So far, Gina Gallo doesn't want me to buy a winery. No. The future is what? Cooper Mountain, I don't know. I can buy Silicon Valley Bank was sold yesterday. Means I wanted to buy Silicon Valley Bank for $1, but I really didn't want to.
You were the second bidder.
I was a computer, yeah.
That puts a good timeline on this interview that the Silicon Valley Bank sold yesterday. On the note of Cooper Mountain, anything on the horizon here that you're, any new projects, anything you're trying new, or is it?
At Cooper Mountain, we purchase a lot of vineyards, well-established vineyards. And first thing we need to do is transition organic and biodynamic. Is what we're doing now. We are on a year 2 for that. We have a total of, since I'm here, for example, we have 3 new sites. Since 2004, Corrin Vineyard, Cooper Mountain Vineyard, and Arbourbrook Vineyard. 2 of these vineyards needs to be established organic and biodynamic, and at the same time I'm learning the sites. Arbourbrook Vineyard already harvested some fruit a little bit for Arbourbrook label, made a wine from it, and holy shit, that's good. That's one of the sites I was surprised. I was thinking, okay, all right, there's not going to be a wet stuff here. And holy boy. Boy, I don't know what happened here. It was not me, that's already the grapes. Chelem, that's a complex site with a long history of quality, upper quality, absolutely amazing. Very great vineyard management on this one. Diversification of clone, blocks, there is blocks everywhere, that's amazing. And means the future is a day we are going to have our babies inside here and make wine at Chelem Mountain, from Chelem, Arbourbrook, and Corrin Vineyard. Different style, each one Pinot Noir, different clone, different stories, different soil also. Means a complete diversification. And that was a big challenge, but a beautiful challenge. You prefer to be on the upper level, on quality of vineyard everything, than downgrading. Means that's an excitement, absolute, and same thing, getting the quality of the wines, quality, what we can do with, what he will deliver. We know already what he will deliver. Put bit pressure on me, by the way. Sometimes I prefer work on crap and making better than the opposite. And it means that the Cooper Mountain is going to expand automatically and having deliver some large quantity of wine, the very, very high quality with a great terroir aspect, with a long history also. And because history is important also. Means that's a wonderful challenge for Cooper Mountain, that's obvious. And for the team, because everybody has to be on the same page.
With new vineyard sites, as you mentioned, you're learning new vineyard sites and you're going to be making more wine. How, does that change anything for you in your approach?
Yes, but you have to evaluate. Yeah, you have to. It's like kids. Grapes are like kids. Every time you adapt to the kids, if the kids will not go to adapt to you. You know, their brain, their DNA, stuff like that, their personality, in a certain level, that's not you. That's not the people who forge the identity of a child. In a certain level, or fully. The child is going to have their own behavior, their own stuff. You better adapt. I better adapt to them because I'm not going to change. That's not the grapes who is going to change things. No. Means I must adapt automatically. When I say I, we. The team also, everybody. Already on the vineyard, the way we prune our vines, everything's on our site here is totally different from Chelem. That's a different story. And therefore, we adapt, even after decades of habit, we must adapt. We are not the truth. Means we adapt to the land. And winemaking was adapting also to the expression of the land. It means if I have to change things, I will change things. I have no choice. And that's what the beauty of winemaking also. That's some winemakers who buy a lot of fruit from everywhere. But on their mindset, they have no choice. You know, me, I was a poor brat because of the fruit, I knew it. Now suddenly I have something new coming. And that's a challenge for me, which is good. Especially because this one has a history from other winery who buy the fruit, means I know. And they are not, you know, the most screw-up wineries. And it means I have a good picture of what the wine delivers. Yeah. And the good thing is when you have a Rolls Royce, well, it's hard to break. Means the Rolls Royce are the grapes, the site. We have diamond, you know, we don't break easy. Means I can be a screw-up winemaker, I have to be very good to break it. But my job is to respect what the land do. And especially to respect the people. I repeat that, this one. The vineyard workers. Every year, we have people new during harvest, from Europe, everything, interns from US. And the first thing I say to them is, we have a job. The job is to respect the guys who work in the vineyard. For 10 months of the year, they get wet. They get, you know, hot. They did a job. And you better be. You don't do that for your own boss, you do that for them. Don't screw up their work. And we are going to do that. Not screw up their work. Because I know for a fact, they are going to ask me a few months after, hey, how is the wine? And everybody asks that. How is the wine? I will have some time to tell him, you know what, we are a little bit lazy, or it was okay, but no. Means new vineyards also bring new people because we expand. And the question is asking, how is the wine? The final product. That's for babies also.
Last question for you. As you look back, what is your greatest achievement? What are you proudest of?
Personally, you know, every year we have interns, winemaking interns, they are enology degree, everything. And always, the greatest achievement is they keep contact with us still. And many of them became top winemakers, highly recognized winemakers everywhere in the world. Some of them are Rolls Royce even. And they still contact me. Or they contact us. And directly, once a year I receive a message or happy birthday or like that. And the greatest achievement is they became at the top, and now I can ask them questions for help. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud. Number one, they work with me, and they work with the team, and they don't run away from the winemaking job. And I'm very proud because we give them confidence to continue and to be respected. I truly believe, me as my philosophy in life. Winemaking is also a form of a science, as an art, but also as a form of apprenticeship. Anyway, and we have a duty. We have a duty to, in a certain way, to teach people. That's not only work in winemaking. That's not a work. You don't want to be a winemaker only for that. Huh? If you don't like it, don't do it. It's so easy. Huh? However, when you work in a cellar, stuff like that, when you work in a vineyard and you want to progress everything, I consider as a duty that the person needs to be happy. And I really wish the best of the people. And also to give a little bit of knowledge I have or using their brain and tell them, okay, use your brain now. Sometimes I can be harsh, but use your brain when you work. Okay. And when I see, for example, many past interns who are now established winemaker, everything, sending a message, hey, how are you doing? Or if I have a problem, I will call them and they give me advice. And that makes me very happy because I did also a part of my job as a boss. Winemaker, managing a team, a production team. That makes me proud. That's one of my accomplishments. You will tell me, there's nothing to do per se with wine. Because I will not say my accomplishment was, yes, I make a 95 points, like that. But I'm not going to talk about it. I will not talk about ratings, I will not talk about wine quality per se. Why? Because it's subjective. And that's, no. We are not buried in life because we make great wine. No. We are buried, in fact, people remember you for your personality. And not because of your wine quality. I hope so, anyway. And I shut up.
Well, that is all the questions that I have for you, but is there anything I didn't ask that I should have, anything we didn't talk about today that you'd like to talk about?
No, I didn't go to jail. Just, because, sorry, in 1995 in US, I was traumatized by, we are putting everybody in jail at the time. You know, it was the hardcore, you know, you will go measure 11 in Oregon, everything. And all my co-workers, I can say, one by one, we will go to jail for one night at least. You know, the cellar crew. And now I'm thinking, you know, and every time I said, you know, in 1999 to my friends in France, you know, I didn't go to jail. Huh? Because the French always say American, everybody's in jail. That's a joke. But no, it was fantastic. What I have to talk about. No?
Good. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time, sharing your stories with us, sharing the space with us, and
thank you.
We'll let you off the hook.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.